Good morning. Good morning. Can you guys hear me? Looks like my mic was muted. Can't hear you. There we go. Let me know if you guys can hear me now. Should be coming through now. Hello, hello. Good morning. Happy Friday. NFP Friday. Markets breaking down Friday. Maybe. We'll see. Good morning. Loud and clear. Sweet. Olivagus Forex. Good morning. Kika Bug 08. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome in. Hope you guys are doing well. So we're going to get into analysis here that I'm watching out for, and then we will go through some different charts, things that I'm watching out for today on ES and NQ. I primarily trade the S&P and the Nasdaq. So we'll go through analysis, things that I'm watching out for today, and then we'll be on for the live trading session. DG Finance, alive and kicking. Yeah, market is kind of falling off a cliff, but is it really? We're still kind of in the same range on a higher time frame, right? We may actually start to break down now for realsies, for real, now that VX is super elevated. Manuel, good morning. It's going good. Damien, good morning. Nice to see you guys in here. Tessa, nice to see you in here. Go Harali, doing well, doing well. Good morning. Good morning, good morning. DG Finance, Small Cliff, yeah. Who else is in here? Let me know in the chat where you guys are tuning in from today. I'm coming in from Orlando, Florida, as always. Anybody in here from Orlando? Ghana, Germany, Italy, Argentina, Switzerland, Colombia, Minnesota, Ecuador, Houston, Texas, Ethiopia, London, India. Whole crew's in here. Ghana, Mexico, Sicilia, Norway, Romania. Wow. West Palm Beach. Nice. Ethiopia. Nice. Welcome in, everybody. Welcome in. Switzerland, Phoenix, all around, nice. Someone from Iran, Sydney, cool, cool, cool. Boston, is it still cold up there, guys? It's like in the 90s here in Florida. Lived in Orlando for a couple years near Narcousie, cool, cool. Cool. Live from Ghana. There's a lot of people from Ghana in here. All right, so quick shout out to our sponsors. Funded Next. We will have some giveaways today as well, so stay tuned for that. We will have Apex, Alpha Capital, and a 12-month TradeZella account. So actually, I think this is wrong. We didn't update this Apex graphic, but I think Apex is actually a bigger discount than that right now. Correct me if I'm wrong, Anthony. I think it's actually. I think it's actually more than that. Yeah, we're at 90% off on Apex, guys. Code CF for discount on Funded Next. But yeah, TradeZella 20% off CF20 code. We will have, again, TradeZella 12-month account giveaway in the stream. We will have Apex account giveaway in the stream. But yeah, ignore this graphic. Sorry, guys. It's actually 90% off right now on Apex. So if you use that, it's the best time to take advantage of that. So we'll get into the analysis here, guys. This is Bookmap. This is my preferred kind of order flow analysis tool that I use. But I will go through some charts here to kind of share the analysis that I am looking at for the day. If you guys are not already in the Chart Fanatics Discord, I have a channel under Matt Owen, under the CF Live team there, and I've already shared kind of a high overview of my analysis and game plan for the day, things that I'm looking out for, and screenshots of my charts and levels. So check that out. if you guys are interested. But I will go through a recap on the analysis here for you all at a high level. It's been a couple month period now where it's been very important to be super patient and super disciplined. The market has been very, very sideways, very directionless, very choppy. And I'll talk about that here. But from a high level, this area around 7,000 and a little bit above has been repeated resistance for months now. This is, I didn't get the date in this. Here, let me get the date in this. There we go. Yeah, so, you know, going back for months now, this area 7,000 and slightly above, actually also at all-time highs, going all the way back to October, has been a major resistance area, right? And then on the downside, this area here, kind of around 6750 to 6785s ish, which are the 2 points that I have marked, have repeatedly been supported. Dips have held at or above this area. Little fake out there, and a little drop earlier in the week, got briefly below there and then recaptured immediately. However, pretty heavy here after NFP. We may finally get a breakdown of this range on NFP. To the downside below this, really don't have too much other than kind of this area that double bottomed below that right there around 6,600, right? So since the month of February, we've been consolidating kind of in the middle of this range here. So I've been really just patient and not taking a whole lot of trades, to be honest with you guys, and just kind of sitting back, waiting for the extremes. You know, we briefly broke down this earlier in this week and then recaptured back up in here. And now we're breaking down again on NFP news, kind of before the regular trading hours opens up here. So this is an important thing to watch here. If we again this fails to break down, especially, you know, prior lows here, and recaptures back up in here again, could have another big old nasty mean reversion back up into where all this volume has been transacted basically sideways since beginning of February. Right, we'll look at some other stuff more in depth. This is a daily chart, by the way. I think I forgot to mention that, but this is a daily chart on ES. Right, so I like to start every day just kind of zooming out, getting a big picture of kind of the macro trends going on, or not lack thereof trend in this case, like very sideways range, and where we're at in that perspective. What are the driving factors fundamentally going on? So I like to start every day, even as a short-term intraday trader. I like to maintain that focus and awareness of what the overall market is doing every day. Yep, I'll talk about VIX as well, primarily VX futures. All right. So if we break under here and pops fail now under, especially this like 6785 to 6750 area, we could be heading lower towards, you know, 6650s, 6600 area, right? Could be heading lower towards there. If we recapture back above here and back up into this range, then we could be heading back towards, you know, 6850, 6900, kind of have a lower high trend line that formed here that I have marked. I don't trade trend lines and stuff a whole lot unless it's a macro kind of trend line on a 4-hour, daily, weekly type chart that I pay attention to, that the market clearly is respecting. Then that's something that I'll pay attention to, right? Just because I know a lot of eyes are on that, and I trade, you know, based on analyzing the market auction in real time. So I know if there's a lot of people paying attention to that, they're likely going to react in the market around that, right? So I need to pay attention to the order flow around that. So I would look at this area here, these prior highs, that trend line, things like that to the upside, either today, I'm talking today, or going forward this week. Yeah, this is ES futures. This is on the S&P 500. I trade futures and options, but even when I trade options on SPY and SPX, on the S&P 500, I still do pretty much all my analysis on ES, on the S&P futures. So I pretty much keep that standardized. I do all my analysis pretty much on the S&P 500 futures and the Nasdaq futures. However, I will kind of correlate that sometimes with key levels from like SPX and SPY, depending on if it's a more macro type play, then I will look definitely at those, right? But I tend to do 99% of my analysis, things like that, on the futures for the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq. All right, let me drop this screenshot in the chat here on Discord. Again, under the Matt Owen channel on the Chart Fanatics Live Discord. Recommend checking that out. Okay, drop that there. All right, let's take a look at the Nasdaq chart. Now, so far this year, the Nasdaq has been the leader of the losers, kinda. It's been relatively weaker, and a lot of that has been due to the relative weakness of the software industry, which is obviously more heavily weighted on the Nasdaq. Sorry, my computer's buzzing here. That's not good. Hopefully it doesn't crash. So the Nasdaq has been relatively weak because of a significant portion of that is because of the weakness of software tech. That's kind of trying to mount a recovery. Let me check IGV really quick. Yeah, that's trying to mount a nice rally and recovery. It's been struggling to get continuation below 80 on IGV, which is one of the main indexes for the software industry, which again has been the leader of the weakness on the Nasdaq. So if that starts maintaining this recovery here, then that could continue to give a little bit of a relative strength to the Nasdaq. If that rolls back over, this thing could really flop. So you can see here, looking at this chart, we have these multi-month lows here, similar to what I talked about on ES. And you can see how ES is kind of already below that in the pre-market here. Nasdaq still above prior highs from this week, above this area up here. So, you know, relatively holding a bit higher up here, right? And on this dip earlier this week, it did not dip as low relative to the prior dips as ES did. ES was weaker and dipped lower. Okay. So again, this kind of macro visual here, you can see how NQ has kind of been stuck between this 26,000 to 26,200-ish area there. That's been a major resistance area. And then to the downside here, this area around 24,500 plus or minus a bit, right? Just ballparking it here, has been supported repeatedly. And you can see going all the way back to October, just like ES, we've basically just been sideways in this range, right? And then specifically, we've been super sideways in this range since February, kind of oscillating around 25,000. Ding, oops. Right, you can see we're just kind of oscillating around 25,000 there roughly. All right, so I'll get a little more specific, but similarly to ES, if we do finally truly break under this range and see pops fail under there, really the next area that I'm paying a lot of attention to is some key areas in here where we last based and then rallied out of, and these prior lows. Right, so from just a macro perspective, those are the next thing my eyes are on if we get this weakness here. If we fail to break down from here and we recover, especially back above like 24,750, back up and 25,000, right? Oh, come on, you stupid thing. Right, then we could go back towards these highs here, right? Top of this range-ish area up there. So right now, it's we've already kind of had an extended move from this NFP selling. We're coming into this key area that has bounced repeatedly on both ES and NQ. So I'm a little wary of chasing the market down here at this point until I see it truly like break, and then I see pops fail under this range. I'm a little cautious chasing the downside here, as we've already extended down to these lows that have repeatedly bounced over the last 4 months. Okay, so it's been a demand area that's been repeatedly supported. Now, the difference I will say is that, and we can talk about this a little bit, is that VX is now super elevated. But there's two sides to that, right? One is that, yeah, it's elevated, so it's applying more pressure to the indices, but also I think right now the S&P 500 puts, people are, I think, have the largest insurance like hedge position via puts ever right now, right? So everybody is kind of insured for this downside already. Not to say that it can't go ahead and break down, but everybody's kind of already positioned for the downside. There's been a very large positioning already going on for some time now for the downside. But as long as VX does continue to stay elevated like this in the near term, especially coinciding with ES and NQ trying to break down these multi-month lows, that certainly could validate that breakdown if it stays elevated like this. I'll show you what I'm talking about here. Let me just clip my VX chart. So you can see how in recent months we've just continued to hold higher lows. The floor has just been building higher and higher on VX here. And it's really taken off here since we held above these 20s area, right? So since I marked a few levels here that I was watching, and we repeatedly held these levels, and you can just see how the pressure is just mounting, right? We're now over 25. So this is very elevated on VX, right? So that's a lot of pressure added and weight on the shoulders of the indices, especially ES, especially the S&P 500, right? So if that continues to stay elevated and pullbacks continue to hold higher lows, then that's going to add confluence up for us to confirm that this could be a true breakdown of this range, a breakdown under 6,800 on the S&P. And we could trend lower, like I said, towards like maybe those 6,600s and below. So we want to keep a watchful eye on that. All right, let's get a little bit more specific. We got 10 minutes till the open here. Let's take a look at some things and stuff. All right, so I've got a 4-hour chart here, kind of looking a little more narrowly at this range that I've been specifically talking about since February. We've had basically a balanced range of bell curve volume distribution since the beginning of February. We tried to break that down earlier this week and recaptured. However, this context is actually looking pretty weak now. You can see how after we recovered on that failed break of the lows, this is the point of control around 68.80s. We made lower highs and really failed to sustain above that. And you can just see the velocity of the selling multiple times now coming into these lows. So the context is definitely leaning weak here. How we tried to break these lows, tried to recover, couldn't get back to the top of this range, and instead kind of started failing at the point of control in the middle of this range, made lower highs repeatedly, right? And then look at the consolidation. Again, this is a 4-hour chart here. So for 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 24 plus hours, buyers were trying to break out over this point of control area around 68.80 to 6,900, right? Over 24 hours, buyers were trying to break this out, couldn't do it. And obviously we see what happens. They couldn't do it and we've broken down. So this is looking pretty heavy given that we're making lower highs. We failed to even get back over the point of control after we hit the extremes of this range. It's definitely leaning heavy. However, just because it's leaning heavy does not really mean that I'm going to be super eager to chase shorts down here at the lows. Risk versus reward just doesn't look good. If I see pops fail, right, and see signs that point to go short, I may take it. Or if we continue lower and you know, fail to recover back above, then I may take it. But I don't really love initiating shorts at the lows. Just too vulnerable to get stopped out on a aggressive pop, right? In fact, I'd even potentially scalp a failed dip down here for even just an aggressive pop back up into the range if I see significant buying. It's just too easy to, you know, stop out late shorts, right? So I'd potentially watch for that as well. A little fake out dip, even just a strong relief bounce could offer a really nice scalp opportunity. You can see, just looking at the order flow now here on ES, we dipped just under that 67.50 level that I've mentioned here in the pre-market, and look at this, right? So on the heat map, we see big passive buyers absorbing. Look at that, all that dark red on the heat map, right? And since this breakdown here, we've struggled to get any continuation really below the 67.50, and in fact buying is mounting more and more pressure here, right? So if we get a nice recovery of that, it could offer a nice scalp opportunity back up into this range potentially. However, again, if that fails, you know, I'd be more likely to look for shorts. Couple things there. Again, dropping all these screenshots in the Chart Fanatics Discord, so if you guys want to review any kind of the analysis and things that I'm talking about, it's there for you. All right. Yeah, I'm going to get to NQ. I've been talking about NQ. Sorry, guys. I got a lot of analysis to go through. I will respond more to the chat here. I'm just trying to get through all this stuff, right? Again, looking at this volume distribution, balance range, you can see this chop fest going on since February, right? But again, similar, we did have a more aggressive pop on above 25,000 here on whatever this is called, the Nasdaq. But again, lower highs, failed to sustain above there, and just a lot of velocity, momentum from the sellers back to the downside. So repeated weakness, really applying pressure towards the lows of this balance range, right? Again, around that 24.5-ish area, right? Has repeatedly bounced in recent months. Same area that I was talking about the charts. And you can see when we tried to auction down there previously, not much volume has been transacted because you can see this volume tail on this volume profile drawn since the beginning of February, right? So again, you know, watching out for this to possibly pop back up into the range here, right? After this extended sell-off on NFP news. If today or next week or whatever, we do break this down truly and hold pops under there, then I may be much more interested in shorts. But it's a little tough right now. You know, yes, there's a lot of weakness in the market. However, we're coming into this area that's just repeatedly bounced again and again and again and again and again and again and again over like the last 3-4 months, right? So it's a little tough for me to chase shorts on the weakness down here into this area that's just repeatedly bounced until I see us truly break it, pops fail under it. Now I will say we are getting more confirmation from VX being so elevated. So that's definitely adding confluence that this could truly break down now. But in the meantime, I'd watch out for at least some strong relief bounces first. You could see, like I talked about here, my NQ chart is on my other screen up here. I'll pull it down here so we can look at this. You can see this strong selling into this lows, again, around just a little ways above that 24.5. And you can see how aggressive buyers are really trying to hold. So this is something that I watch out for on bottom reversals or the same thing flipped. I've talked about this before, but you know, when I see aggressive selling try to break down a key area like this, look at how more than 3/4 of the bubble is aggressive selling here. And then we try to do it again, and we double bottom with smaller selling. Look at the size of selling. You know, that is a red flag, at least in the near term, to try to short for a breakdown, right? Because we had a lot of aggressive selling, a lot of negative delta, failed, bounce, a second pullback with less selling, right? So if this selling couldn't break down, unlikely that weaker selling is going to break down, right? So I'd watch out in the near term when I see something like that, at least for an aggressive relief bounce pop. All right, so I have to first watch out for pretty violent bounces here off this. I would be very, very cautious here trying to chase shorts into this low. All right, so I think that's most of the analysis and setups that I'm watching out for here this morning. We got 2 minutes till the market opens here, so let's watch this. And again, I'll monitor the chat here. Again, these conditions have been very sideways, but volatility has still been high. We've been making pretty large range moves. So be very mindful of your position size. Often when volatility increases, this could be a very volatile day as the market's kind of adjusting to this NFP news. We sold off pretty aggressively. So anytime, you know, fear increases in the market like this, volatility increases, you want to be very mindful of your position size. Make sure you're making adjustments to the conditions so you're not inadvertently risking significantly more per trade. Basically, that's a long way of saying you should size down in high volatility. All right. What's up, Mateo Raldon? What's up? What's up? Yeah, so I would definitely watch out for an aggressive bounce here. There's a lot of buying already kind of mounting into this open here. If this buying fails, though, they could get rugged and we could break down. It's a pretty distinct little low volume node on the break of prior day lows, right around 67.65. So that would be a key area to watch, right around 67.65, really up until prior day lows, 67.76, 77. That also coincides with this VWAP level I have here pretty much too. So I would watch this area right around this VWAP level as well. If a pop does fail there, there's a low volume area there as well. Pretty heavy selling, snapping right back in. I definitely like to let this first 5 to 15 minutes develop, especially on a day like this. I've been very focused on just being very, very patient in the conditions recently above all else. Yeah, I absolutely use the context from looking at supply and demand areas, support and resistance areas, and volume profiles for confluence with key levels that I look to trade around. Pretty heavy selling stepping in here, but we'll see. So far, selling into this area has been absorbed. VX is still very elevated though. Not getting much of any kind of pullback here on VX. Capital Preservation Fridays. Yes, absolutely. AKA no blow up Fridays. Everybody wants to make back their whole week on Friday and end up just blowing up more, or they want to turn a good week into a historic week and blow up more. Still seeing some aggressive buy pops here. Ooh, look at that bid stepping in there. Kind of watching this bid here. It's kind of defending this pullback now, just for a possible scalp pop back to the upside, back towards that 67, 65 area. Oh, he kind of pulled, I think. Couldn't tell if he filled there or not. Looked like he pulled that order actually. I don't know if I like that. It looked like he pulled that order right before price sold into there. Tricky. A lot of selling right into these lows so far, not breaking down further yet. It could. A lot of selling though trying to come in. I like how this buying is trying to come in here though at these lows and defend this. If it gets smashed here though, then that could really take the wheels off this train. Yeah, that's super heavy now. Super heavy now. Look at the increase of selling on that drop. We were seeing this aggressive buying coming in, but did not really get any kind of lift here, and super heavy selling dropping in. Yeah, ES could certainly break from, I was watching this area right around 67.50 because this is right around the lows of this area that has repeatedly bounced. But we are trying to break it down now. Like I said, I have to watch out for aggressive bounces off this area, but if we do now truly break under it and pops fail under it, then that's a different scenario. Coming up towards those prior lows around 67.19, 67.20 from earlier this week. You could see all this dark area on the heat map here around that. That's the low of the week right there from earlier this week when we had that sell-off. A lot of bids sitting there, liquidity sitting there. Came just a few points off of it here. Now, on the other hand, NQ is still quite a bit above that area. Quite a bit above that low from a few days ago. That low, what is that? It's down there at like 24,350s. So we're still almost 100 points above that on NQ. We're breaking that low here on, or trying to come into that low here on ES. NQ is still like 100 points above this area. VX is still exploding. NQ's popping pretty aggressively here. It's interesting to see how well NQ is trying to hold up. Not saying it will, but trying to hold up relative to ES. Some aggressive buying coming in here. Basically, since like 9:36 for the last 3 or 4 minutes, there's been a lot of aggressive buying. It hasn't really gotten a lot of price movement, but the delta is all for aggressive buying since like 9:36. Just a lot of aggressive buying. Has not really lifted price any kind of speedy way though, yet. Has on NQ. NQ has bounced violently. VX is still holding above 25 though. That is super elevated. Somebody said divergence between VX and ES. What's the divergence? VX is up, ES is down. VX is up 12% though. 1.5% down on SPY. ES 1.5% down. You think ES should be more down based on how elevated VX is? Trader John. A Trader, the winner of the account giveaways will be selected. We'll do a random kind of selector. Pull your name from a hat, so to speak. Pre-market routine is generally going through, higher time frame analysis. Somebody asked, they joined late, can you go through my routine in the pre-market? Generally prepping myself first, exercise, food, daylight, and then going through charts. I like to go through higher time frame analysis, volume profiles, etc., to get a strong sense of the market context, overall location, where we're at, And then from there, I start looking a little more narrowly at more recent volume profiles, at more recent price action, etc. Key areas that I'm going to be sure to analyze the order flow around. We're at a little bit of a tough place here, right? Because there's a divergence definitely going on here between ES and NQ. NQ is trying to pop here, and so far ES is really struggling still. VX is super elevated, but we're coming into this range that has been just repeatedly defended by buyers. So it's tough for me to initiate shorts here, to be honest with you, until I see some new context form. I know it might seem obvious, like the market is moving down trying to short here, but it's tough for me to come up with a short scenario here as we test like this area that's been a demand area for like multiple months here. Yeah, it's very thin. Honestly, I thought we were going to get a little bit more up and down volatility, and so far, look at if I zoom out here, look at the amount of aggressive buying down here at these lows. A lot of aggressive buying, actually. Not really, you know, getting it much upside yet, though, despite that. Yeah, if I zoom all the way out on the session here, you can see as we've dropped to these lows, look how much large buying has come in here at these lows. Quite a bit. Now that could get absorbed by passive sellers and we could break down further. It's possible. Especially with how relatively weak ES is to NQ. Typically, I'm confused, Trader John, because I mean, typically VX and ES would, for a directional move, be moving divergently. You would see VX elevated and ES breaking down. So there's some more heavy selling coming in. So all of this aggressive buying so far has kind of gotten stuck, just not getting upside movement. A lot of effort, no reward. VX is coming up to 26 now. Goodness. So that could definitely be confirming now kind of the weakness under this daily range potentially. Oh, you're saying it hasn't? Yeah, I don't pay attention so much to like specific level of like breaking a specific high, specific low. I don't look at them correlated to that extent between VX and ES. So all of these orders just filled here. See all this on the heat map just got filled. So let's see what happens from this. Can see how that kind of dwarfed the chart there. That order right there, large aggressive selling into a passive buyer right there at 67.20 to 67.18, one more dip there. That was that prior low that I talked about from earlier this week, which was, let me get the level exactly, 67.18.75. That's a good question. I do. So Bigfoot said, since order flow shows the actual buying and selling activity, do you find candlesticks unnecessary or even misleading? For entry confirmations, yeah, I don't really look at candlesticks at all. For overall analysis and context, I do look especially at more higher time frame charts, especially combined with things like volume profiles. But as far as like trying to look at candle chart patterns for entry confirmations, I think is relatively useless to me. It's more important to see it on order flow stuff like this. Okay, so I did get a little update from the team. We are going to be selecting the giveaway winners through questions and participation in the chat today. FYI. So the giveaway winner will be selected by participation, quality questions in the chat. FBG's asked, I see order flow traders put very tight stop losses. Why is that? Generally because we get very precise entries based on order flow confirmations. We're not waiting for like a candle chart pattern to form, right? So our point of invalidation is typically very, very close, right? Because we can see as the auction shifts in real time, like look at this low. I saw this large passive buyer here. You know, I was kind of looking for a little bit more of a pullback right to it, right? So if we got a pullback here towards 2021, we were a few points off of it, I would basically have like a 1 or 2 point stop loss, because the point of invalidation based on what I'm seeing on the order flow is very, very precise. Whereas with a candle chart, you don't have that much precision information. So you're kind of getting later entries, waiting for candles to close, etc. So that generally just necessitates wider stops. I'm not saying it can't be done. It's just generally you'll have lower risk versus reward, wider stops than order flow traders tend to look for really precise entries with high risk versus reward, because we're able to see that develop in real time before a candle chart forms any kind of pattern. And so we're able to get an entry extremely close to the point that would invalidate it if it flips the other way. How do you manage risk in high pressure situations? I guess meaning if it's like high volatility and stuff, size down. Size down. What is the difference between Bookmap and Deep Chart? Both great order flow tools. I've been personally just using Bookmap for years. I do want to try Deep Charts and possibly replace like my regular candle charts that I use like Thinkorswim for with Deep Charts, because I think it's a super great tool. I don't have personal experience with it yet to speak to it. I find it difficult to short this, even though, you know, obvious weakness is here. I just have a hard time shorting this because, you know, it's gone kind of too far into these kind of key areas that could bounce. Too vulnerable for strong pops to get to stop, you know, positions. So and just the amount of aggressive buying that's come in here defending these lows, like I said, since 935, 936, look at all the aggressive buying coming in here. Like, yes, we could trap these buyers and break down further, but for me at this point, I find it difficult to chase the downside here. Bottom reversal confirmations would be to see really large absorption, kind of like this, and then aggressive buying defend it, kind of like this. So kind of like what we're seeing right now. I just haven't seen anything that's got me ready to like really pull the trigger yet. We are seeing a bid here. I think I'm just a little wary both ways right now, just given how much weakness there is, how elevated VX is making me a little bit cautionary around, you know, trying to catch a bottom on it. And also at the same time, how far we've already extended this move down and the amount of buyers we're seeing at the lows here is also making me very cautious around shorting it for more downside continuation at this point. So what do you use for your edge? What strategies? I am a market auction reader, right? I read the market auction and I do that with candle charts and volume profiles to analyze kind of like key supply and demand areas. And then I do that in real time, analyzing the order flow as it hits in the market. So my edge is analyzing the true market auction, buyers and sellers, and executing trades based off of that. Discretionary trades. However, I do have very systematic and repeatable setups that I look for. So my trade management and my, you know, confirmations that I look for and stuff, very systematic and repeatable. And it's kind of a blend of kind of discretionary and being as systematic as possible, even as a discretionary trader. Coming back into these lows towards this 67.20 area where we had this large absorption before. What's VX doing? VX is still staying strong at the highs, but hasn't really accelerated any further since the pre-market, really. So that bid just kind of popped in here again around 67.19. Do like the aggressive buying coming in here again. Yeah, I do like that aggressive buying coming in here. It's a pretty tight spot that you'd want to see get defended. I just tried this long at 21.50. I'm gonna have a stop just under like 19. So very high risk versus reward here. I'm gonna go break even with my stop here. Would like to see a nice pop back above 30s. If it sweeps under my entry, I'll look to re-enter again. Yeah, it tagged me break even just now. I'm looking to possibly re-enter. All right, trying it here. Slightly worse fill, I don't love it. I'm looking for an aggressive pop back up over these highs, 30 to 40. But if it breaks now, you can see obviously my invalidation point here. There's just a lot of aggressive buying coming into these lows. It may need to sweep these lows. I just took it off. Took about a 2-point stop there. Stop hit. It may sweep these lows and then do it, or it may just break down from here. I don't know. See, if it sweeps these lows and recaptures with some really aggressive buying, I may still be interested, but if it breaks down from here, I'm not going to be interested. It's still kind of defending. Still kind of defending. I tried it again. I'm in at 20.25 on the recapture of that low. My stop is just like 2 ticks above my entry now. Again, looking for this to just break back over the 30s. Go, go, go. You can do it. Oh, shoot. I meant to move my take profit, guys. My take profit just hit. I couldn't even, it shot before I was trying to drag. So I enter trades with a bracket order for a stop and take profit. I couldn't even move my take profit fast enough. It shot into it. I had it set at 33.75. So my take profit was at 33.75. I tried to drag it up towards 40 and it hit before I could even move the order. All right, so I took a 2-point stop and then I took a 13. I got in that at 67.20.25 and my take profit hit at 33.75. So what is that? Almost 14 points of profit there. So 2-point stop and then a 14-point win. So somebody asked a great freaking question earlier. Why do you have such tight stops with order flow? Because I can see the exact orders that I'm looking where the market will likely defend. So my invalidation point is so close. Yeah, Joe, we can deep dive into it. We can deep dive into it after. I'm a little flustered, guys, to be honest with you, because I was trying to move. I saw the aggressive buying come in and I was trying to drag my take profit up to these highs up here at 40, because again, my take profit order automatically places for me with my OCO orders. And I literally clicked the order and dragged it, but I hadn't released the mouse click yet. And it filled like right before I dragged my take profit another, 7-8 points higher to these highs here, it tagged it. It happened too quick and I wasn't zoomed out enough on my chart. I was zoomed in so closely looking at the order flow. So it's like, yeah, my auto take profit hit there, but I'm a little annoyed because I wanted to actually boost it up here, but that's okay. So I got in when that aggressive selling came in and then recaptured 20. I saw a large aggressive buyer fill at 20 right here. As soon as I saw that recapture here, I market entered and I got filled. So I was trying to get in around 19 here. I think my fill got right at, so you see I literally said this seconds before, right? I said, if I see aggressive selling sweep this low one more time, and then I see aggressive buying recapture it immediately, I'm going long. And that's exactly what happened. So, you know, I was looking for so the first entry here was around this time, right? I saw the same thing. We saw a bid defend here. Sorry, I'm pointing at my screens as if you guys can see me. Freaking retard. So I'm looking at this spot on the heat map here where this aggressive selling came in and then aggressive buying came in. So that was attempt one. I took a small L on it. Yeah, I got swept for a small L there. That's okay. And then we pulled back one more time and we saw the exact same thing as the first entry. This large buyer on the heat map here, and then aggressive buying came in as soon as it came in, right? This is why I like this versus a candle chart, because I see, okay, one, trap sellers, aggressive, passive buyer right here. And again, the key level from this is one, we've been in a multi-month range where this low repeatedly keeps getting defended, okay? Two, it's a prior day low from earlier this week that aggressively bounced earlier this week. So again, until this structure breaks and I see significantly pops fail below, I'm still trying to fade this, at least for relief bounce scalps. And the other piece of context here is that NQ is still not even breaking these lows. So NQ is still holding up higher lows, which is giving relative, you know, strength, right? So it's when one indice is not participating in the breakdown like this, it's going to be very hard, at least in the near term, to get successful downside continuation. The best like downtrending continuous breakdowns come when across the board the market is selling off. But if we're dipping our toes down there on ES and NQ is saying nah, then that's a good opportunity for me to fade it for a quick scalp to the reversal, right? Unfortunately, my auto take profit had me undercapitalized on this before I could move it. That's okay. But, you know, it is what it is. Bookmap does not have a time frame. Bookmap, it can be as close or as far as you want. You see, so if you guys paid attention, you can see for most of the day when I'm right at a key. Audio video check. Okay. Sorry, guys. All right, so I think we're back on. Sorry about that, guys. Technical difficulties, right? Happens to all of us. I forget what I was saying. I forget what I was saying. Sorry, guys. But either way, you know, just my invalidation on that scalp. So I got back in on the aggressive buying recapture of 20. So I got in long at 67.20.25. My stop was just under around 67.19, right? So it was immediate, you know, go or get out, right? And so it ended up being a 13.75 point profit on about a 2.5 point risk. How do you get through the phase between learning and becoming a professional? What exactly happened? Honestly, there was no like overnight like click, right? It's just a steady grind of continuously getting better and better, continuing to have better and better analysis, better and better context. For me, I think after a few years, I got very, very proficient at reading price action and order flow. However, it was a struggle to constantly adapt to the different conditions the market would go through. And that's why I'm so big on like starting every day with like higher time frame analysis, higher time frame key levels, and paying attention to that. So I'm very, very aware of kind of the macro conditions, direction of the market, whether the market's sideways, whether the market's uptrending or downtrending, and kind of key factors that are impacting it. And that way I'm not trying to trade every, sorry guys. Are we back on? Audio video check. Testing. Are we back? I think it reconnected. Apologies, guys. I don't know what's going on. My internet's solid. My book map, everything is solid here. So I think it's something with YouTube. I think it's something with YouTube. I think we're back, guys. But Joe Feck asked, do you hold some trades or you only scalp? I primarily take intraday trades. Sometimes the time frame really depends on the market and the volatility. In these high volatility conditions, you know, the moves that I'm looking for typically happen fast. But it could be a scalp. I would say 90% of my trades are probably 5 to 30, 45 minutes. But I also, when we hit more macro levels and I have more confluence between order flow and macro trends and stuff, I also take a lot of larger size swing trades typically with options on the S&P and other things. But I do swing trade too. I have for many years, long time. So when those bigger plays happen, I'll typically swing it, longer time frames, bigger size for some big hits. But I would say like my base hit intraday trading majority of the time is like 5 to 30, 45 minutes. In this instance today, this scalp, you know, my favorite Friday base hit, I mean, this thing went from like 958, like a minute. That was like a 7R scalp in a minute today. Yeah, that was like 7R scalp in like barely a minute. Risk versus reward is different, you know, depending on the setups. Obviously, you know, using order flow tools, not just bookmap, but anything. And also pause. Look how we pulled back into this area and again rallied out of it. Look how key this is, right? So I pointed this area out all the way back. No, sorry, that's a terrible drawing. Ignore that. Let me snip this so I can draw it more specifically. I want to just show you like why order flow is so powerful here, right? There, in my opinion, at least, there was very little on any candle charts, any time frame that would tell you this was super key at this time. But I was talking about this ever since this occurred here, right? We saw this large buying and then bam, right there. That's when I was starting to look for this trade, right? And then we dipped down there one more time, exact same thing. Look at that, bam. And actually zooming out here, remember what I talked about earlier is when we break, I said when we break a low and I see large aggressive selling and then I see a second low with weaker selling, I'm start to be very cautious, one, of shorting that and also potentially looking to, again, this is Are we back? Sweet. All right, we're back. Thanks, guys. Okay, so there's several things going on here that I want to point out. One, again, this is stuff that you can't see from a candle chart, is all the aggressive buyers as we drop down here off the open. Like I said, since after the first 5 minutes, like since 9:35, we saw a lot of aggressive buying. Then we saw two lows form with larger negative delta on this low and then weaker negative delta on this low. And both of them were absorbed by big passive buyers. You guys see that? And then look at the cumulative volume here. See how we kind of went from red to green there at the same time too? So that's why that was the context, especially looking at fading the extremes. Now look at this. This is a little delayed. I'm not sure where we're at now, but we came up, sellers tried to reject it VWAP, but look at how the selling dwindled off here back into this area. So this is something, one, I look for trade entries off that type of thing right there, especially given the context that that's at a prior day low, at the low of a multi-month balance range. And then two, once that has formed, this is now kind of a key near-term demand area. And you can see how we pulled back into that one more time here, and again bouncing off it against. Now we may eventually break this down, I don't know, but right now, at least what the tape and order flow is saying right now is look out, because this area is being defended by aggressive buyers. So if you guys are not in the Chart Fanatics Discord, I recommend being in there, because I've shared this setup in there before. Like this is a textbook setup that I trade all the time. I've traded it live on here countless times now. This is a textbook setup for me. Maybe I'll talk to Anthony and the crew, and we'll do, if you guys missed the last one, I'll do another live stream in the Discord to go through a setup review on this. Yeah, it's still going up, man. But at the same time, like my target was hit, right? And actually I tried to, if you missed it, I tried to boost my target because I had an OCO order opened up for my stop and target, and my target got hit so fast before I could even move the order for a wider target. But that's okay. It was still, you know, a 7R trade in a minute. To just above break even. All right, guys, because of the issue that we're having, it looks like we're back up. Sorry, guys, I'm trying to contact support on the back end here, or talking with our folks in the back end. All right, because we're having this issue for the second two giveaways, I am gonna just run the selector here. So give me 1 sec. So in the chat, let me give you the keyword to enter one time and one time only. That's not it, Sergio. So one time and one time only, exclamation point tape reader in the chat. And we'll run the second two giveaways that way. just because we keep having this YouTube disconnection issue today, guys, and I apologize about that. So we'll give it just a minute to gather all the names here from everyone. Exclamation point tape reader. We're going to close it in just a minute here. You guys got like 30 seconds. Exclamation point tape reader in the chat. We got 2 more giveaways. All right, we're going to close it now. And let me get a list of the name. All entries are now in, guys. All entries are in. I gave it an extra few minutes there for you guys. All right, let me get the list. One sec. All right, I got it. All right, so we got 2 more giveaways. We're going to do it this way because of the issues that we're having, technical difficulties on the YouTube side of things here. So let's see what we got here. Make sure you guys are ready to claim it if I call it. We got JLE23. JLE23, let me know if you're here in the chat. Congratulations. Congratulations, JLE23. There he is. You've won the Alpha Capital Group Challenge. Follow the link in the Discord, Chart Fanatics Discord, to claim that. Go to the support channel on Discord and claim it within 24 hours. Congratulations. So we got 1 more giveaway here, guys. The Dissid Ups Disney. Disney, are you here? Congratulations. This thing is still rallying higher. Isn't that crazy? Just a side note, guys. Isn't this crazy how we spotted and caught the low of the day here so far on the order flow? Yeah, congratulations, man. 12-month trade Zella. That's a big one. Nice. Congratulations to our winners today. Yeah, big W. But we're coming up to that key area around 67, 65 that I mentioned earlier in the stream. So this will be an interesting spot here. But so far, we spotted the absolute low of the day based on reading the order flow here from the 67.19s, you know, all the way to almost 67.60s now. So 20 to 60, 40-point move here off this low that we spotted with order flow. Pretty sick, pretty sick. Unfortunately, I undercapitalized on it, but it's okay. I got my piece. It's all good. So we're starting to see some battle up here. Sellers trying to defend up here a little bit. We'll see if buyers break through it and continue this move. But for the last 5 or 6 minutes here, we've seen a little bit of a fight from sellers up here now. Might squeeze through them. There's a whole lot of liquidity up here. Just look at all this red on the heat map here. I'd be surprised if we don't surge up into there. VX is coming off. It's still above 25. It's still super high. IGV is rallying this morning again, which is definitely giving life to NQ. So going forward, I would watch this area this morning around 67, 65. VWAP is around here. That's kind of a little low volume area from the selling this morning. If buyers manage to recapture back above there, let me just look at my volume profiles. It could be a big old mean reversion. Let me snip this here so you guys can see what I'm talking about. Right, so we had this sell-off here. This is this area that I'm saying is kind of the top of this volume. You can see that low volume node there. Right there, right? So really aggressive selling there, especially that was on the break of prior lows here. So this is a key spot, either if sellers defend and we continue to drop back towards the lows, or if buyers get back above, we could continue to press towards the value area high, 6790, 6800 at least, right? If buyers do recover, that would be kind of back inside this multi-day, multi-week range. That would be a big win again for buyers defending this failed break of the lows, if they do, right? So this is a key spot right here, 6790, 6800, and then in the near term, this area around 67, 65 plus or minus a few points, we have that low volume node there. That's a key kind of inflection point up or down from there. And look at a huge amount of buying now coming in, surging through that. So that's kind of key going on right now. That's what I'd watch. Personally, this isn't like a hard rule, but this is kind of a soft rule for me. If I catch a 10+ point win to start the day, especially on a Friday, that's like a base hit, one and done kind of day for me. So I'm not going to take another trade today, just to be honest with you guys. So I would watch, but I'm sharing the analysis that I would watch going forward today, right? If buyers sustain a recapture, especially you see all these orders on the heat map here, this is kind of key right here. Can I show NQ on Bookmap? Sure, we can take a look really quick. Similar stuff on NQ. NQ is just holding this uptrend a lot more strongly and coming all the way back up into the highs from 830. So NFP highs here incoming. That NFP hit around 830 this morning right here. NQ is all the way back up there to test them. So one thing that I could have potentially done better was look for this fake out bottom reversal long setup on NQ rather than ES, just because of how relatively strong it was. It was a better, it was a better long on NQ, more aggressive move to the upside, could have potentially capitalized on even more risk versus reward to the upside with a relatively stronger instrument that is NQ. So, all right, guys, thanks for tuning in today. That's going to be a wrap for me. Hope you guys got a lot of value out of this. Again, I'll be back on Fridays here on Chart Fanatics Live. So if you have any other questions going forward, the best way to reach out to me is just on Instagram. The link I think is in the description down below. So if you guys have questions or want to get into contact with me, make sure you follow, smash the like on this YouTube channel. If you guys appreciate the free education content, live trading here on Chart Fanatics for myself and everyone else with the team, helps us out a ton if you guys smash the like button and subscribe. And I'll see you guys next week. Which platform is that? That was my volume profile on Tradeovate. I have a video of it on YouTube as well if you want to set up volume profiles on Tradeovate. I also have a similar configuration set up on Sierra Chart. All right, guys. Have a good weekend, everybody. I will see you guys back next week. And that's a wrap. Peace.